In this tutorial video, we would like to guide you to work together on the first project. Console is the tool where you can handle your various projects. You can start and stop the Atvise server, and you also can configure the OPC UA port as well as the HTTP port the Atvise server should use. There we can also stop the running project and add a new one. If you would like to add a new project, you just need to specify a new empty folder on the file system. We can create a new empty folder on our desktop, for example, and choose this directory as our project directory. Before I start the Atvise server, we can open this folder in the background. And what you can see now, once the Atvise server is starting, there's automatically a project file called nodes.db created. It is a SQLite database file and it contains the whole project. This means all changes done in the engineering tool are automatically saved in this file. You can use this file for creating backups or if you would like to move your project to any other PC. The rules are simple. If you start the Atvise server, it is looking for a file called nodes.db in the project directory. If it's available, this project will be started. Otherwise, a new project file will be created for you. Now we can start the Atvise Builder, our engineering tool. We can choose the root user to log in, and at the first startup, you can choose the default layout. We can take the pre-selected advanced layout. On the left-hand side, you can find your project tree with the section My Server. There your data sources, which means your PLCs can be specified, your displays, your visualization pages can be created and configured, and you can find the objects, which are your variables, your tags, your data points from your data sources. In the lower area, you can find the library with all the default components which can be used in your visualization pages. Let us start first with the displays. So we can open the main display. On the right-hand side, automatically the drawing area is shown. So, for example, we can easily draw any kind of SVG element, or we can use a library element like those bar, which can be placed direct in the drawing area. On the right hand side, you can find the parameters for the controls. As we are using online engineering, we just need to save this page and open the browser. We can do this easily via the project console, and automatically our visualization is shown in the browser. If we perform any changes, we just need to apply them and save them. Next time when we open this page, the changes are automatically applied to the browser. With each Atvise installation, automatically the integrated OPC UA test server is installed. It can be seen as some kind of simulation for your data source. It's an OPC UA server running on the local machine, can be used for testing purposes. So we can now integrate this OPC UA server as a data source. We can specify a name and the URL. Connection settings can be made, as well as security settings like encryption or user authentication. Once the data source is added, we can perform a right-click on it and browse the data source. This means we get the list of all data points available on this data source shown. There are some simulated values which we can find here. And now it's our task to get those data points which should be used in the visualization into the visualization solution. This means we can perform a right click and choose copy. And at the objects folder, we can do a right click and paste and mirror. This means the same structure from the data source will be created within Atvise, and the mirroring means the binding, the link, the connection to the data source. We can also choose the direction if we only want to read data, if we only want to write data, or if the connection should be established in both directions. So we can choose in, out, and we can take the structure without types. As we can see here, we've got the same structure on the Atvise side, and if you make a double click, we already can see the value changes. Now we can switch back to our display and use drag and drop to place this data point here. For sure, we can also use the existing control, like the bar element, and link this component with our data point here. Once we save that and change back to the browser, we can see the value changes automatically. If you would like to use other communication protocols than OPC UA, for example, Modbus TCP or MQTT, you can use our multi-protocol server, Atvise Connect. Therefore, we can switch to our web page and download the latest installer of Atvise Connect. Again, we can choose the corresponding installer for our operating system and download it. Once the download has been completed, you can start the installer and go through the installation steps. When installation of Atvise Connect has been completed, you can switch to the configuration tool of Atvise Connect via the Windows Start menu. And there you can select Configure Product on this PC. Here it's now possible to add new connections of different types. So we can choose a name for the connection like PLC2. We can choose the protocol which should be used like Modbus TCP. We can specify any IP address and confirm that. In the next step, we can add Atvise Connect as a data source to Atvise Scada. So we can switch back to our Atvise builder and add a new data source of Atvise Connect. Once again, we can specify a name for the data source. As URL, we can use localhost, and we can specify port 4855. That's the default port Atvise Connect is using. We can confirm that, and now Atvise establishes a connection to Atvise Connect, and Atvise Connect is taking care of the proprietary communication to the various data sources. The procedure is the same as before, so we can perform a right-click on Atvise Connect, and in the folder Topics, you can find for each connection you have configured in Atvise Connect a new folder. Depending on the data source you're using, you can immediately browse the data source here, or it's necessary to configure the variables manually in Atvise Connect. And now, have fun testing.